This is the Men's Self-Help Podcast, and I'm Dr. John Moore. At Men's Self-Help, we'll discuss psychological and emotional issues that are important to men and what to do about them. From anxiety to depression to relationship challenges, it's all explored. The Men's Self-Help Podcast is a show dedicated to helping you take just a few minutes today to become a wiser man. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Men's Self-Help Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. John Moore. And right now, if you haven't already done so, please make sure to tap on that follow button so you never miss another pod. Before we get too far into today's show, I need to offer a quick disclaimer. This podcast isn't designed to act as a substitute for mental health counseling, and I'm not your personal therapist. All right, back to the topic. So today we're talking about designing the perfect morning routine that actually works. Now, maybe you've seen some of these routines on social media. A guy wakes up at 4:30 in the morning, he drinks something green, he meditates for 45 minutes, he writes 3 pages in a journal, he takes an ice bath, runs 6 miles, reads an entire chapter of a book, and somehow finishes all of this before the sun comes up. And you're watching this while trying to find a clean pair of socks and wondering whether you remember to put gas in the car. Here's the truth. You don't need somebody else's morning routine. You need a morning routine that works for your life. So guess what? That's what we're going to build today, a plan that works for you. Let's start with the word perfect. A perfect morning routine isn't one where you complete 12 different wellness activities before breakfast. It's one that helps you become more emotionally regulated, mentally focused, and physically prepared for the day ahead. That's it. The routine works when it helps you function better. It should not become another measuring stick you use to beat yourself up. Is that something you can relate to? Have you ever done that? If I'm being honest with you, I've done that too. And it can be really hard to break out of that cycle. All right, let's pretend a guy named Mike creates a highly ambitious routine. He follows it for 3 days. Then he sleeps through his alarm one morning, skips the routine, and immediately thinks, crap, here we go again. I can't stick with anything. But that isn't a personal failure. It usually just means the routine was unrealistic. A useful routine should support your life. But when it turns into something that your entire life has to revolve around, well, it's just not going to work. It's just not, you know? So as we move through this episode, I want you to remember one central principle. Your morning routine should be repeatable on an ordinary Tuesday. Not just when you're motivated, not just when you're on vacation, and not just when everything is going right. I'm talking about an ordinary day. So here's the first step. Listen up, because this is a biggie. Start the night before. Believe it or not, a successful morning routine usually begins the evening before. Every decision you have to make in the morning requires a small amount of mental energy, so you want to minimize those decisions as much as possible. Have you ever woke up in the morning and started scrambling, wondering, what should I wear? Where the hell are my keys? What's for breakfast? Am I going to exercise? What am I supposed to do first? Each question creates friction. And the more friction you experience, the easier it becomes to abandon the routine completely. So before going to bed, take 5 minutes and prepare the environment. Here are some simple examples. Put out your clothes, place your walking shoes near the door, fill your water bottle, set out the notebook you plan to use, prepare the coffee maker, put whatever you need in a place where you'll actually see it. And hey folks, this isn't about becoming rigid or obsessive. It's about reducing the number of negotiations you'll have with yourself when you're tired. Because morning John and evening John may technically be the same person, but they don't always have the same priorities. So nighttime John may say, tomorrow morning, I'm getting up and exercising. But what about that dude, morning John? I can tell you what he's saying. Screw that. That sounds like something nighttime John should handle, not me. So, as you can imagine, planning ahead closes that gap. Make the desired behavior easier to begin. All right, are you ready for the next step? Here it is. Decide how much time you actually have. Before choosing the activities in your morning routine, determine how much time you can realistically protect. You may have an hour, you may have 30 minutes, you may have 15. All 3 can work. The mistake is believing that a short routine doesn't count. It counts. 15 intentional minutes can be far more valuable than 60 distracted minutes. Think about your actual responsibilities. Do you have young children? Do you have a super long commute? Do you work early shifts? Are you caring for someone? Or do you live with a partner whose schedule is different from yours? Design the routine around reality, not fantasy. Let me say this again, reality, not fantasy. You may even need 2 versions, a regular morning routine and a shortened backup routine. Your regular routine might take 45 minutes. Your backup routine might take 10. That way, when life happens, You don't have to abandon the practice entirely. You simply use the smaller version. This helps prevent all or nothing thinking. You're no longer telling yourself, I missed the full workout, so the entire morning is ruined. Instead, you're saying, I don't have time for the complete routine today, but hey, I can still do the essentials. By the way, folks, that's called psychological flexibility. And you know what? Psychological flexibility is much more useful than perfection. Now, I want to make an important point. Your morning routine has 4 jobs. That's right, 4 jobs. Hear me out. A healthy morning routine generally needs to accomplish 4 things. 1, wake up your body. 2, settle down your nervous system. 3, activate your mind. And 4, direct your attention. You don't need 12 separate habits. You simply need to choose 1 or 2 activities that address each of those jobs. Let's walk through them. Are you ready? Here we go. Job 1, wake your body. When you first wake up, your body is moving from a sleep state to an awakened state. So, give it a little help. Here's how you do it. Lightly stretch. Nothing major here, folks. We're talking about putting your arms up into the air and gently reaching for the sky. Next, open the curtains or turn on the lights. When possible, step outside or spend a few minutes near a bright window. Natural morning light can help signal to the brain that the day has begun and can support the body's sleep-wake rhythm. You don't need to stare at the sun, so please don't do that. Just allow yourself to experience the morning light. Now it's time to drink some water. You've gone several hours without fluids, so having a glass of water is a simple way to begin the day. It doesn't need to contain a complicated mixture of powders, minerals, herbs, or ingredients shipped from a mountain village that nobody can locate on a map. Regular water is fine. Now it's time to introduce some movement. This doesn't automatically mean an intense workout. You could stretch for 3 minutes, walk around your block and take in the sights, take the dog out to do his business, maybe even work with some resistance bands, or you could even spend 10 minutes on a stationary bike. But the purpose here, folks, is to tell your body, I'm awake now, let's move. And when you consistently pair waking up with light, hydration, and movement, you begin creating a recognizable transition from a sleep state to an awakened state. Now let's talk about job 2. Are you still with me? Here it is. Settle your nervous system. A lot of people wake up and immediately activate their stress response. I'm talking about things like this. They reach for the phone, they scroll through Instagram or TikTok, they read a news alert, or they notice some annoying bank notification. They remember something they forgot to do yesterday. And within 60 seconds of waking up, the nervous system is already preparing for battle. This is one reason I encourage people to create a little space between waking up and entering the digital world. Now hear me when I say this. Your phone is not evil. It's really not. But it is a doorway through which hundreds of people, problems, and expectations can enter your mind. Look, it just helps to wait 15 minutes before opening that doorway. You know, longer is wonderful when possible, but even a brief delay can help. Use that protected time to regulate yourself. Try slow breathing and see how it goes. Just inhale gently through your nose, pause briefly, and then allow the exhale to be a little longer. It's that simple. And if you need to repeat that several times, that's okay. And you know what else you can do? You could just sit and be quiet. I know that may sound silly, but silly isn't silly anymore when it becomes reality. So, sitting there, you could pray a little to your higher power if you believe in one. Meditate on something positive. Listen to calming music. Practice gratitude, or simply stand near the window with your coffee and let yourself arrive. The goal isn't to empty your mind. That's not how minds work. And folks, it's like this. The goal is to notice what's happening inside of you before the outside world crashes in. During this time, ask yourself, how am I feeling this morning? What does my body need? What am I emotionally carrying in this moment? You don't have to solve everything. You're simply checking in. That's it. A very simple check-in. So we covered a lot right there, don't you think? We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about how to activate your mind and give your morning a clear sense of direction. Hey, before we get back to today's episode, let me ask you something. When was the last time you really thought about the cologne you wear? See, a good fragrance can help you feel more confident, more put together, and let's be honest, a little more attractive. But choosing the right one can get confusing pretty fast. I mean, do you want something fresh and clean for work? A warmer vibe for date night? Or maybe you just want one solid signature scent you can wear absolutely anywhere. Over on my site at guycounseling.com, I've put together a complete guide featuring 25 of the best colognes for men. It includes everyday fragrances, great date night picks, some affordable options, and even a few luxury splurges. I also break everything down by season, occasion, scent family, and budget, so you don't need a chemistry degree just to smell decent. You can find the guide right at guycounseling.com. That's GUY counseling.com. And to make it even easier for you, I've dropped a direct link right in today's show notes so you can click it while you listen. But if you're heading over to the site directly, just look for the post titled Best Colognes for Men. Oh, and a quick heads up before you click. That page does contain affiliate links, which just means Guy Counseling may earn a tiny commission if you make a purchase at absolutely zero additional cost to you. It's just a simple way to help support the show. All right, let's get right back to today's episode. Hey there, everyone. Welcome back. Before the break, we talked about waking up your body and settling your nervous system. And now we're going to move into the third job of a healthy morning routine, and that is activating your mind. Now, once your body is awake and your nervous system is relatively settled, you want to give your mind something constructive to work with. And folks, this doesn't have to be complicated. Maybe you read a few pages from a useful book. Maybe you listen to part of an educational podcast. Maybe you review something you've been learning. You could even write in a journal, or you might spend a few minutes visualizing how you want to handle something coming up later in the day. But let's talk about visualization for a second, because sometimes it gets presented in a way that's a little too magical for me. Visualization isn't magic. You're not placing an order with the universe and then waiting for it to show up on your doorstep by 3 o'clock. That's not how this works. What visualization can do is help you mentally rehearse a behavior, and that can be incredibly useful. Let's say you've got a difficult meeting later in the day. Maybe it's with your boss. Maybe it's with a coworker. Maybe it's with that one person who somehow manages to turn every 5-minute conversation into a 45-minute emotional hostage situation. You know the person I'm talking about. Before that meeting, take a minute and close your eyes. Imagine yourself walking into the room calmly. Picture yourself listening. Imagine yourself speaking clearly. Visualize yourself remaining grounded, even if the other person becomes defensive. Picture yourself taking a breath before responding, and imagine yourself walking out of that meeting knowing that you handled yourself well. That kind of mental rehearsal can help you feel more prepared because you're practicing the response before the situation actually happens. Athletes do this, performers do it, public speakers do it, and you can do it too. Now, affirmations can also be useful, but, and this is a biggie, they need to feel believable. Because if you're deeply anxious and you keep telling yourself, I'm completely calm, nothing bothers me, everything is perfect, part of your mind may immediately respond with, yep, no, none of that is true. And now you're arguing with yourself before you've even had breakfast. So instead, try something a little more grounded, something your mind can actually work with. You might say, I can handle discomfort without running from it. I don't need to have every answer today. I can take the next step, even when I feel uncertain. I'm learning how to respond instead of react. I've made it through difficult days before, and I can make it through this one. Those statements aren't pretending that problems don't exist. They're not trying to convince you that everything is wonderful when it clearly isn't. They're reminding you that you have the capacity to face whatever comes up. And sometimes, especially first thing in the morning, that reminder is enough. All right, let's move into job number 4. Direct your attention. Before the day begins pulling you in 10 different directions, decide where your attention needs to go. Ask yourself one simple question. What would make today meaningful? Not perfect, meaningful, because there's a difference. A perfect day is usually something we imagine. A meaningful day is something we can actually create. So choose one primary task. You might also identify 1 or 2 smaller things you'd like to get done, but keep the list manageable because a 20-item to-do list usually doesn't create focus. It creates anxiety. You look at that thing and suddenly you're exhausted and you haven't even done anything yet. And then you start doing the easiest things on the list just so you can check something off. You answered an email, you moved a file, you cleaned something that didn't really need to be cleaned. And meanwhile, the one thing you actually needed to do is still sitting there looking at you. So let's keep this simple. Maybe you write down, today's most important task is to finish the proposal. One personal priority is to call my brother. And one act of self-care is to take a 20-minute walk after lunch. That's it. You don't need to create a strategic operations plan for your entire life every morning. You're just giving the day some direction. You're helping yourself separate what's actually important from what's merely loud. Because without some kind of plan, most of us slip into reaction mode. We answer whatever message arrives first. We deal with whoever is demanding our attention. We respond to every notification, every email, every text, every little red circle on the phone that makes us feel like something terrible is going to happen if we don't tap it immediately. And then we bounce from one small emergency to another. By the end of the day, we're exhausted, but we can't really identify what we accomplished. Have you ever had one of those days? You were busy the entire time. You barely stopped moving. But when somebody asks what you got done, you're like, I honestly have no idea. That's reaction mode. And listen, planning doesn't guarantee that the day is going to go smoothly. Life is still going to happen. People are still going to people. Things will come up that you didn't anticipate. But having a plan gives you a place to return when things become chaotic. It reminds you, okay, this is what mattered to me today. This is where I want to bring my attention back. And that matters. All right, let's make all of this practical. I'm going to give you 3 sample morning routines, a 15-minute version, a 30-minute version, and a 60-minute version. Now, before you hear 60 minutes and immediately check out, relax. These are just templates. They're not commandments. You're not being graded here, and nobody is coming to your house with a clipboard to inspect your morning routine. So let's start small. Here's the 15-minute routine. Minute 1, get up, open the curtains, and drink some water. Minutes 2 through 5, stretch, walk around your home, or do a little light movement. Minutes 6 through 9, practice slow breathing, or simply sit quietly. Minutes 10 through 12, review your most important priority for that day. And minutes 13 through 15, read 1 page, write a short reflection, or repeat one of those grounding statements we just talked about. That's a morning routine. It counts. And I want to emphasize that because I know there's somebody listening right now thinking, 15 minutes? That doesn't seem like enough. Enough for what? You woke up your body. You settled your nervous system. You activated your mind. And you gave your day some direction. That's a pretty good use of 15 minutes. Now here's the 30-minute version. Start with 5 minutes of natural light, water, and some basic movement. Then do 10 minutes of walking or exercise. Spend 5 minutes breathing, meditating, praying, or simply sitting quietly. Take 5 minutes to read or write in a journal, and then use the final 5 minutes to look at your schedule and choose your priorities for the day. That's 30 minutes. And for a lot of people, that may be the sweet spot. It's long enough to help you feel prepared, but it doesn't require you to wake up when it's still dark outside and join some imaginary club of highly successful people who apparently never sleep. And then we have the 60-minute routine. You might spend 10 minutes waking up gradually with water and natural light, 20 minutes exercising, 10 minutes in quiet reflection, prayer or meditation, 10 minutes reading or journaling, and then 10 minutes eating something, reviewing your day, and getting yourself ready to begin. Again, these are templates. They're starting points. They're not rules. You can change the order. You can remove pieces. You can substitute different activities. Maybe you don't like journaling. That's okay. Don't journal. Maybe meditation makes you restless. Try walking quietly instead. Maybe you're not hungry first thing in the morning. You don't have to force down a full breakfast because some morning routine guy on the internet told you to. Build something that works with your body, your schedule, and your actual life. Because you're conducting an experiment here. That's all this is. Try your routine for 7 days and observe what happens. Do you feel more focused? Are you less rushed? Do you feel a little calmer? Are you more likely to follow through on important tasks? Do you find yourself reacting less and responding more? Does the routine improve your life, or does it start to feel like one more obligation hanging over your head? Pay attention to that. Keep what works. Change what doesn't. There's no prize for forcing yourself to continue a routine that makes you miserable. And that brings me to something else that often gets overlooked. You should build a morning routine that you actually enjoy, at least part of it. It shouldn't feel like punishment. Maybe you sit in your favorite chair. Maybe you walk while the neighborhood is still quiet. Maybe you put on music that makes you feel good. Maybe you enjoy your coffee without staring at a screen. Maybe you spend a few minutes with your dog. Maybe you stand near the window and watch the city wake up. Whatever it is, include something that feels good, because pleasure helps reinforce behavior. When your brain begins associating the routine with something positive, Getting started becomes easier. You begin to look forward to it. And listen, discipline matters. Of course it does. There will be mornings when you don't feel like getting up. There will be mornings when the bed feels especially good and your alarm feels like a personal attack. But you don't need to prove your discipline by making every morning unpleasant. A useful routine can be healthy and enjoyable. Those two things can exist together. Now, at some point, you're going to miss a morning. It's going to happen. You'll oversleep. You'll get sick. One of your kids will need you. Your partner will need you. The alarm won't go off. You'll have an early flight, or you'll stay up too late watching something you had absolutely no business beginning at 11:30 at night. You know how that goes. You tell yourself, I'm just going to watch one episode, and then suddenly it's 1:15 in the morning, and Netflix is asking if you're still there. Yes, Netflix, I'm still here. I'm not proud of it, but I'm still here. It happens. The question isn't whether you'll occasionally fall out of the routine. You will. The real question is how quickly you can return without attacking yourself. Don't turn one missed morning into a story about your character. Don't start telling yourself, see, I can never stick with anything. I have no discipline. I always mess things up. You didn't fail at life. You missed a routine. That's it. Begin again tomorrow, or use a shorter backup version. Maybe you don't have 30 minutes. Fine. Do 10. Open the curtains. Drink some water. Take 5 slow breaths. Choose the one thing that matters most today. That still counts. Consistency doesn't mean never missing. Consistency means returning. Let me say that again. Consistency doesn't mean never missing. It means returning. And the quicker you learn to return without shaming yourself, the more sustainable your routine becomes. Now, your morning routine is more than a productivity strategy. It's more than a way to squeeze a few additional tasks into your day. It's a daily message to yourself. It says, my mental health matters. My body matters. My attention matters. How I begin my day matters. And I'm allowed to prepare myself before I begin taking care of everybody else. For a lot of men, this is important because many men spend most of the day working, solving problems, providing, managing responsibilities, answering questions, fixing things, and showing up for other people. And there's nothing wrong with that. Being dependable is a good thing. Taking care of the people you love is a good thing. But the morning may be one of the few parts of the day that truly belongs to you. Before the emails, before the calls, before the traffic, before somebody needs an answer, before the world begins asking things from you. Using some of that time for yourself isn't selfish. It helps you become more available, more patient, more focused, and more intentional with the people who depend on you. You're not escaping your responsibilities. You're preparing yourself to meet them. And there's a big difference. All right, so here's your assignment. And don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to build some elaborate 2-hour routine tonight. I want you to choose 4 simple things. 1 activity to wake up your body, 1 activity to settle your nervous system, 1 activity to activate your mind, and 1 activity to direct your attention. That's it. Decide how much time you realistically have, not how much time you think you should have, not how much time some guy on YouTube says you need. How much time do you actually have? Maybe it's 15 minutes, maybe it's 30, maybe it's 10. Choose something realistic. Then prepare what you need before going to bed. Put the glass near the sink. Set out your walking shoes. Place the book on the chair. Leave the journal where you can see it. Make the routine easy to begin. And then test it for 7 mornings. Pay attention to how you feel. Notice what helps. Notice what doesn't. Adjust it as needed. Remember, the best morning routine isn't the one that looks impressive online. It's not the one with the cold plunge, the complicated supplement stack, the 4 different journals, and a sunrise workout that apparently begins at 3:45 in the morning. The best morning routine is the one you can actually live with. It's the one you can return to. It's the one that helps you feel a little more grounded, a little more focused, a little less reactive, and a little more connected to the kind of man you want to be. That's what matters. Holy cow, I can't believe we've already reached the end of today's show. We covered a lot today, didn't we? I truly, truly hope you got something valuable out of it. I'm Dr. John Moore, and you've been listening to the Men's Self-Help Podcast. Thanks so much for spending this time with me today. I really do appreciate it. Oh, and hey, you can follow me on Facebook at guycounseling.com or over on Instagram at the exact same handle. And I'd love it if you'd share this episode with someone who begins every single morning by hitting the snooze button 7 times and then wondering why he feels rushed. You know who he is, and there's a pretty good chance he knows who he is too. If you get a chance, please leave a review on whatever platform you may be listening on. It really helps the show grow organically, And algorithmically, I'll leave you with this. Make it your mission today to make someone else's day brighter. Have an absolutely amazing day. Be gentle to yourself, and I'll catch you in the next episode.